everyone.
Happy Monday.
Welcome to Sermon Break.
Yes, I feel like I have not been on Sermon Break in so long.
I know, I've missed you. It's been a couple weeks. Steven and I have been holding it down.
Yes. Yes, it has been a couple weeks.
But glad to have you back in our matching outfits.
Yes, this was not planned. We did not talk about this. I don't know how it happened. It just happened. But I love seeing so many of you in the chat. Cagney, Wonder, Charlotte.
Good to see all of you. Is it rainy where you are right now? Because it is pouring rain here in Mississauga, but it's still gonna be a great day.
Yes.
Because Pastor was back.
Pastor was back in the pulpit and he came with a word.
And I feel like it's gonna carry us through a long time.
Yes.
Like this was a great word. I got so much out of it. I really feel like he's been off, but he's been, I don't know, watching me in my house.
Yes. I feel that way too. I had on my way to church yesterday morning, and let me know in the chat if any of you guys pray this prayer, but I was like, God, I need a specific word, not a general word. I need a specific word. And I felt like God really answered that prayer through Pastor Steven's sermon yesterday. And I was very grateful for it.
I was very grateful for it. Something funny that he was talking about, because he always has like great stories, was when he was talking about expired food and how Holly it's kind of more of a flex date, and he's very much by the package. So our icebreaker for all of you today, are you more like Pastor? Are you more like Holly? Are you more on you're gonna throw it out, or I'm gonna smell it and see if it's all good?
Right.
Where do you fall?
It depends on what it is. I think that meat and dairy, there should be we're not going past the date. Like, unless it's oat milk or almond milk, something like that, I'll let it go for a few more days than usual. But regular whole milk and meat, I think it's once it's done, it's done. We should not be letting it go past the date. The thing that always confuses me though is that I grew up around a lot of farms and on a farm, and we used to have eggs at my godparents' farm, and they actually like just stay outside. The eggs just like stay outside in the heat, not refrigerated, and they can last for so long.
I know.
So then I'm like, why do we refrigerate them and they have an expiration date?
Right.
I just have a lot of questions about that. So let me know if you know about eggs and why that is. But
I feel like Steven knows about this.
Yeah.
I feel like he knows the reason why. There's like a coating or something. He's told me. I don't know. I'm sure he can dive into the details. But yeah, it is crazy. Yeah. I used to live in London, and they'd put like so much of their food, like their eggs on the counter and stuff.
Yep.
This is a totally different world. I'm very much by the date. Like, and even like one little moldy thing in there, we're done. I am very particular about my food, which probably isn't good because I feel like I end up wasting a lot, and I really don't like wasting food. So I am trying to get better at that.
I remember this was when Kristen first got pregnant. She brought me a box of coffee and was like, it's going to expire in a couple months and I won't be able to have it. So you should just have it. I was like, coffee doesn't really expire, but okay.
It was good coffee.
It was great coffee. I was very grateful for it. It was great coffee, but also fruit, like bananas. I don't like them brown. Peaches.
Right.
I don't like them brown. I can't really eat peaches, but yeah.
I don't know.
But also the brand new album came out this weekend.
That was another great thing that happened this week.
Yes.
It was, let us know if you were here for worship night. It was so powerful.
Yes.
Being able to sing all of those songs. Shout out to our worship team. Shout out to Emily just holding it down.
Yes.
Did an incredible job. The whole team did a great job. Production team. All the band, really, because it was a lot of songs.
There was a lot of songs. I could not believe we went through the whole album. I was like, oh my goodness, from top to bottom, the entire album plus Goodbye Yesterday, which is not on the album. But it was a really incredible night. But what's your favorite song off the album?
It's really, really hard to pick because I really think all of them are so good. I really like I really like Sure Been Good.
Yes.
I really like When Wind Meets Fire. I would say those two are probably my favorite. What are yours?
My favorites are Yahweh We Love You, only because I think that I loved when Joelle was leading it.
Yeah.
And I love that it has like the little white heart on the album. Steven had told me that before it had come out, and I was like, that is so cool. But also that has been like an anthem in my life, and my boyfriend as well. We've been listening to it on repeat, the bootleg version, but now we can listen to the real version.
It's a great one.
It is a really, really good song. And even we were singing, I can't remember when we started singing God Is Not Against Me.
Oh yeah, I know.
That was so long ago.
I know.
And I forgot that it was on this album. And so I've been listening to it and it has like a whole new meaning.
Right.
And I loved when Pastor was saying yesterday, like the blessing of our worship ministry is that it could minister to someone today, but a song could minister to someone 7 years from now, 10 years from now, you never know. And so we're able to touch people's lives globally at so many different points in time. So I thought that was really cool to just think of it that way.
It's amazing the reach that our church has and how so many other churches are going to be singing these songs. And I just feel so privileged that we got to have them first and get them like right when they released. Another One is on the album. Yeah. Actually, that one's my favorite one.
Yes. I'm wearing the Another One t-shirt right now.
I know. I can't believe I didn't buy that one. I really have to because that one's really special. That's a really special song to me too. So I can't pick. Honestly, they are so good.
Yes.
But let's talk about the message a little bit.
Yes, the sermon was super impactful and we want to talk about it a little bit more. So put it in the chat. Let us know your top sermon takeaway, something that really impacted you felt was just for you. And when we come back, we will talk about it. But let's watch this clip.
But understanding that you are fruitful in the place of your suffering, well, it makes you look at bad things people say about you a little differently. It makes you look at the things that you don't like a little differently. You go, wait a minute. If this goes in this, and I'm all out of seeds now, that was my last one. If this goes in this, then it will begin to absorb the moisture. If this goes into this, it will begin to spread apart and shatter. If it starts to shatter, then it can start to sprout. If it starts to sprout, it can grow down to get the nutrients and the minerals and reach up to get the light. But it starts, Joseph said, in the place of my suffering. And this is why it's really important that you don't get stuck in what you suffered.
I am so grateful that Pastor is back in the pulpit. We were talking as a staff this morning.
Yes.
And I have pages of notes from the sermon, but specifically that clip. And I love when Pastor was saying, like, when you start to look at the soil and the fruitfulness in your suffering and you're able to surrender it, you look at how people treat you differently. You look at the things that people say about you differently, and you're able to really look at it from the lens of Joseph of like, oh, God's fruitful even in this, like even in the things that people are doing to harm you. My favorite verse is Genesis 50:20 when Joseph says, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for what's being done now, the saving of many lives. And you're able to have that lens when you're looking at it like, oh, it's okay. Yeah. Because this is still fruitful. Like this is still growing.
Right. It's great perspective because it would have been hard for him to have it in that moment. Yeah. But he did. And it's always been an example that we've loved.
Yeah.
Just about how Joseph did that. I think Stephen Cagney just said, Stephen, your heart sank at the moment. The demonstration that he did with the seed and the shoe was by far my favorite.
So good.
I was so bought in. I was not looking away.
Yeah.
I loved that part. And then I actually was reading another scripture today. That's why I have my computer, because it's kind of a long scripture. But I just thought it was really cool. I don't know. I'll read it to you, and then I'll tell you what I found really interesting about it. It's in Jeremiah 17:5-8, and it says, "Cursed is the one who trusts in man, who draws strength from mere flesh, and whose heart turns away from the Lord. The person will be like a bush in the wastelands, and they will not see prosperity when it comes. They will dwell in the parched places of the desert, in a salt land where no one lives." So in this scripture in Jeremiah, they're talking about how if your heart is turned away from God and you don't trust in him, then you are still a fruit, but you're actually going to perish. You're going to be in this desert and nothing will grow from you. But then it compares it right after. It says, "But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They'll be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when the heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit. So you have a choice to make here. Are you going to trust God or are you not going to trust God? No matter what, there's still fruit inside of us. There's still this seed inside of us. And this one seed, it's saying that even when the heat comes or there's a year of drought, it has no worries. It's still going to bear fruit because the foundation or the soil is a heart that trusts in God. And I just think that it's really, this scripture just again echoed what Pastor was talking about, how it really is a focus and it really is a perspective. He said the goodness of God is a perspective. Your situation might not be good, but you have a choice to figure out, okay, where is the goodness going to be? Because we're all seeds. We all have potential in us. It's just, what do we do with our soil?
Right. I think, and like that perspective is so impactful. And I'm thinking about even Do the New You. And I know we're a little bit a ways away from Do the New You now, but when Pastor was saying like, Christ is in me, I'm enough.
Yeah.
Like your external circumstances, the soil, the dirt, the dryness, the heat, whatever it is, like it really doesn't matter. What matters is knowing that Christ is in you and trusting in him and trusting that that is enough.
Yeah. And even when bad things happen, like this heat and this year of drought, it's all going to work out because you're trusting in God and your confidence comes from him.
Yes. I loved, one of my favorite points was when Pastor was saying, just because I didn't choose to go through it doesn't mean I can't grow through it. And I was thinking about all the things that like Joseph would never have chosen, to have his coat of many colors stripped away from him, to be thrown in a pit, to be accused of things that were like so not even, I can't even imagine. He never chose to do those things or be in those situations, but he still grew from it.
Yeah.
And people were blessed because of his obedience. He still used his gifts, even though he was being hurt. He still was able to like interpret people's dreams, even though they were hurting him. And I think about all the times where so many of us have like walked through seasons where we're suffering, we're being hurt, we're in situations where like, I would never choose to have this for myself. Like never. But the choice that we do have is, are we going to grow through it or are we going to just stay there? And Pastor was even saying like, don't stay stuck in your suffering. Like don't stay there. It's an opportunity for you to grow.
Yeah. I think so many times we don't focus on the fact that we're growing. We just focus on the suffering, or we focus how are we going to get out of this, God, or what can I do? And I think, and this is preaching to myself, but I think so many times I have to flip the script in my mind and say, no, this is a good thing. This is developing you. It's forcing you to figure out coping strategies, or it's forcing you to rise above maybe what's happening around you. So I think, I don't know, I just think that's so great and such a great principle to be reflective on.
Yeah. I loved one thing that Pastor said towards the end. He was like, dig till you find what you're designed to do.
Yeah.
And I think in our suffering is the times where we're like, I'm not good at anything, or I can't, everything sucks. And Pastor was like, why don't you just like dig into that a little bit more?
Right.
Like go through that, go break through the different barriers, because there is something that you were designed to do and maybe you just haven't figured it out yet. But God's like waiting to reveal it to you. Or it's on the other side of your suffering. Like so many things that I have stepped into were on the other side of my suffering, walking into ministry. Even my job before that, like I suffered a lot in going through school, but then the job that I had, I was like, oh, this suffering made sense because I needed it and it equipped me to do what I then was able to do as a counselor.
Yeah. And again, he mentioned how nothing is ever random.
Yeah.
So all this suffering, like your life is not random. It was not a coincidence that you had all of these issues, like all these things come up, because that is the way that you're grown and you're able to do what God has called you to do and what he has designed for you to do. And I think so many times we do stop, right? Because we think that we're suffering and we just think, oh, I guess I'm not, God, gonna do these things that maybe that you've called me to. But I love when he said, like, no, like dig through it, like spend the time with God, cry to God. Don't think that you need to do something else or go somewhere else or call your family, or run to some sort of old habit or something, but really just like sit there and dig it out and figure out, okay, what is the suffering, and God, how are you using it, and what can I learn from it? And that's the way that we grow. And I think this is why messages like this are so important.
Yeah.
Because Pastor is really challenging us not to just stay stagnant or stay stuck, but to really figure it out, because we all suffer. So what can we do to just constantly improve ourselves and get closer to God?
Yes.
So we have an action step.
I was going to say we have an action step.
Give it to us.
Our action step, we really want you this week to see the fruitfulness, but also surrender.
Yeah.
And something that Pastor was saying was that your surrender turns your suffering into soil. And so you're only able to see the fruitfulness when you have that lens, when you have that perspective. Pastor said the word of the Lord is refocus.
Right.
No matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, refocus. Get back in alignment with God's vision for your life. And hopefully you're able to see that there is fruitfulness even in the land of suffering.
Yeah. So good. Well, we also have something really exciting we want to tell you about.
Yes.
We had an opportunity to sit down with Joe L. Barnes and just talk to him about what he feels like God is teaching him. And he has a new album coming out.
Yes, his album comes out this Friday.
And we want all of you to listen to it and check out the interview too, because we're going to be posting it on Friday.
Yes, we will be posting it on Friday, but also there's a really exciting element. I don't want to give it away. If you watch the whole interview, there's like a really special surprise.
There's a surprise at the end. So you have to watch the whole interview, because I know that he is family to Elevation, and it's really exciting. So we cannot wait to show it to you. So just stay tuned for Friday. Watch that interview. It's been much anticipated.
Yes.
So can't wait for you to all see it, and we'll see you back in church this Sunday. Have a great week, everybody.